Do you think 12-year-olds should be allowed to vote?
Absolutely not.
12-year-olds should not yet be allowed to vote.
Generally, 12-year-olds are easily manipulated.
12 might be a little young, but they're probably smarter than I am.
If they pass a test, I don't know.
Okay, can we scratch that?
I do believe young people really have an interest in politics and they deserve to be heard.
If they are allowed to vote, what are they allowed to vote on?
Maybe 16, maybe. I could see that as a possibility.
Okay. I'm Toussaint Morrison, a writer, actor, and musician living in Minnesota. And in 1776, when the United States was founded, it would have been illegal for me to vote. In fact, the only people who could vote were white males who owned land. And those white males could not be Jewish, Catholic, or Quaker, because all those religions were barred as well. Thankfully, this is not the case today. And that's because, as most of you know, over the past 240 plus years, access to the polls has been slowly but steadily expanding. For example, by 1830, property ownership and religious restrictions were largely eliminated. In 1868, the 14th Amendment, at least on paper, gave African American men the right to vote, although many states spent years denying this right. 1920, the 19th Amendment made it legal for women to vote. And in 1971, the 26th Amendment granted 18-year-olds the right to vote. These are just a few landmark examples. Overall, the trend in this country is moving towards greater inclusion and access. You can even visualize this increase by graphing the percentage of the total population that's voted in presidential elections since the nation's founding. And when you look at this chart, it's interesting to think about where this trajectory may take us in the future. For example, if we were to build America from scratch today, would we, as we asked earlier, let 12-year-olds vote?
I don't think that 12-year-olds should be allowed to vote.
Sounds like a silly question, but remember, back in 1776, it sounded silly to let someone like myself, who wasn't a white male that owned land, be able to vote.
Oh, you're going to a place I didn't go.
It turns out that right here in Minnesota, one of the state's longest-serving former lawmakers, State Representative Phyllis Kahn, spent several decades trying to expand voting rights to young people. Here she is, in 1989, making her case that 12-year-olds should vote.
Representative Kahn, you chair a division of the House Appropriations Committee, degrees from Harvard and Yale, and I think some people might say this can't be a serious proposal.
Well, it certainly is a serious proposal, Eric. I came to it from listening to the proposals for a children's agenda and a children's plan, and I realized that there was one missing plank in all of those platforms, and that's the empowerment of children to help set their own agenda. I think history has shown us that when a segment of society is denied the right to vote, all the rights of that segment of society are then inferior.
So here's what we know. The generalized trend in this country is toward greater voting access, and some policymakers are already thinking that young people are the next natural step. Maybe a good next step for us is to ask these young people themselves, what do they think of all this? My name's Toussaint Morrison, and I'm going to be asking you some questions about voter rights and if you think that 12-year-olds should have the right to vote. Here's like the mic rules, okay? So like, you're not a rapper, you're not holding it like this. If you were able to vote, do you think there would be more discrimination towards people that are your age, or less discrimination?
I feel like there would be slightly more discrimination because our opinion would make a larger statement and it would last longer.
And you think adults would be like, wow, this is really screwed up now.
Yeah.
These 12-year-olds screwed it up.
Yes.
Representative Kahn's basic premise was pretty simple. If you can't vote, you can't defend your rights. Another lawmaker serving at the time was State Senator Fritz Knaak.
The context back then, as I recall it, was that there was a lot of discussion about protecting children, about protecting families, and it was part of a national, these things kind of surge nationally. Enter Phyllis Kahn, whose point was, this is all well and good, but the debate is really among professionals, and is anybody really paying attention to the kids?
Do you think everybody that is above 18 has knowledge of who they're voting for?
No.
Well, I'm gonna tell you, I'm 35, and I've seen some people around my age still make some pretty uneducated decisions.
Actually, men's brains don't stop developing until they're about 39.
So my brain is still developing?
Yes.
Today, Phyllis Kahn is no longer in office, but she does still care about the issue. She even remembers why she chose 12 as the age to start voting.
Right at about that time, I had seen a government notice that went out saying that all government documents were prepared to a 7th grade reading level. So I said, oh, someone's already decided that that's the proper age of comprehension, so therefore 12-year-olds should be able to vote if they can read government documents.
Raise your hand if you believe that 12-year-olds should be able to vote. Raise your hands if you would vote the way your parents vote. Okay, so now we're getting some.
I think I wouldn't vote like them because everyone have a different opinion on certain things.
One of the things that was sort of interesting is that the arguments that were made, and I put them side by side at one point, were almost exactly the same as the arguments that were made to not give women suffrage. You know, they will just vote the way their husbands tell them to, they're not educated enough, they don't think enough about these serious issues, and if you put them side by side, the arguments were just almost exactly the same.
And she's right. I mean, those arguments do parallel very closely to arguments not just about women, but about blacks, about other minorities, all of that. You know, well, they can't really vote, they'll be, which made it all the more irritating, of course, because, you know, you'd say, well, you're just being a bigot. No, I'm trying to be commonsensical here.
If you're saying that 12-year-olds cannot make intelligent decisions, I think that that's true, that some 12-year-olds cannot, as some 20-year-olds cannot, some 40-year-olds cannot, and some 90-year-olds cannot.
The question of voting age is taking on new urgency as teenagers from Stoneman Douglas High School in Florida take the lead on an international political movement. After a mass shooting at the school left 17 people dead, young people across the country and the world have staged town halls, walkouts, and marches to call attention to gun laws and gun violence.
This is what democracy looks like.
One of these walkouts was spearheaded by Lane Murdoch, a high school sophomore in Connecticut. In her petition, Lane says the students' lack of voting rights inspired them to mobilize. This begs the question Phyllis Kahn has been asking all along. How would our country be different if these young people could vote? And is it a country we'd want to live in? Lastly, raise your hand if you think schools would look different if you all were able to vote right now. And there you have it. Everybody has an opinion. What do you think? Do you think this trend will continue towards greater access? Or do you think letting young people vote is a bad idea? Share your thoughts and please do subscribe. I'm Toussaint Morrison. This is America from Scratch. Thanks for joining us. Hey everybody, this is Toussaint. In our next episode, we're going to discuss if we made America from scratch today, would we even have states? So, if you have an opinion and you want it to be heard, submit a video response in the link in the description below.